Now, Malu, what has been the family's reaction to the judgment?
It's been incredible, Vuyo, when Judge Ronnie Hendricks was handing down that ruling. I mean, you could hear inside court the people that were here to support this family saying, "Hallelujah, God is great," and clapping their hands. And of course, the reaction from the family, they're quite pleased, Vuyo, with today's judgment. And I was talking to both parents, and I mean, the mother of this young boy saying that she wants now these men to rot in jail. That's the term she used, because she said that they've taken so much from her. They've taken away her child that she'll never see again, a child that she in fact was hoping that would assist the family to get out of poverty. And the father was saying that this young boy, Umahlomla Moshew, was actually quite a disciplined young man who had high dreams for himself. I remember, this was a young boy who was still at school, whose life was really cut short by this incident. We know that these two men, Pieter Doorewaard and Philip Schutte, had actually told the court that this 16-year-old had jumped from their moving vehicle while they were taking him to the police. Well, they had accused him and his friend of stealing a sunflower. Well, the court did not buy their story.
Well, what was their reaction, Malu, the accused, that is, or their lawyers, to the judgment?
Well, they were taken away immediately, really, to another room by their lawyers, away from the glares of the media and also the glares of the members of the public that were here to listen to this very important judgment. And of course, when I was trying to speak to one of their lawyers, and the lawyer was clear to me that they are not going to be giving a comment at this stage. And of course, Vuyo, they'll be sleeping in jail today because they have been found guilty of several charges, including murder, kidnapping, theft, pointing a firearm, intimidation. And I think it's very important at this point in time to note that one of the very important witnesses in this case was Mr. Bonakele Pakisi. That's the person who witnessed, who saw, in fact, that incident. He's the person who told the court that he saw the accused throwing this young man out of the moving vehicle. And that in fact that he was forced to clean the blood of this young man by the accused. We know that Mr. Pakisi was also intimidated by these two men, and of course his testimony being corroborated by the medical reports from the doctors that examined this young man and the doctors that examined the deceased, saying that his injuries that he has show that it's not the injuries of the person, Bravuyo, who intended to jump, saying that if he wanted to jump, he would have had injuries on his elbows and his arms. But we know that the deceased had injuries on his neck, and he was bleeding excessively on his mouth and his nose.
Malu, now we know, of course, that this case did turn a lot of lives upside down. In other words, the lives of other people beyond the accused, as well as the victim of their rage. Have things gone back to normal now in Coligny from what you are hearing?
Well, I was in Coligny earlier, and it seems as if things were really normal than last year on the 20th of April, when shortly after we've heard of this incident, because if you recall that there were protests, and this case had in fact created you could see that the white members of that community were siding with these two farmers, and of course also the black members of that particular community were seeking justice for this young man who they said was attacked by these two men and subsequently killed. And in fact, at the time, Bravio, there were a lot of political politicians and government officials were in that area calling for calm, saying that law must be allowed to take its course. And I remember officials from the Northwest government engaging with various stakeholders in that community, from the business community to political parties and residents, and also members from the farming community, saying that there's a need to make sure that both race groups are able to live together in harmony. Interestingly, the reaction that I was getting from the economic freedom fighters, one of the political parties, that has been consistent in its support for this family, in its quest for justice, saying here today, shortly after this ruling, saying that today's ruling really would send a message to the people of that, to racists in many parts of this country, that their actions, their ways will really not be tolerated in this country.